Now today I've got something really cool to show you. Now I've been searching high and low. Those of you that have been following my channel may have seen some of these videos. Now there's a whole bunch of these. These are all satellite images, okay? And there's some astonishing stuff like greenery, weird structures in the ground, massive tree-like plants on the surface, huge areas of greenery and strange plants, trees. I've shown over 100 feet tall, that one. But today, what I'm showing you is very similar to what I showed in this video a while back, 4 months ago. I did this video called Mars Walled Domes. And there's also this one, Mars City Targeted and Mars City Found. Those three all show similar structures to what I'm going to show you today. And that what they are collapsed domes and geometrically shaped structures on the ground that look like they've been ruined and blown down or in some way destroyed, okay? Now, this is the image, right, from NASA, taken by the high-rise camera on the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. Cratered cones with wakes in Tartarus Colles, right? No explanation, just cratered cones with wakes. Now, wakes mean basically this area was flooded, and you can actually see on the ground there are flow marks on the ground where water has kind of flooded this area. So it may have been in a floodplain or may have been a lake or something similar, okay? But we have all these kind of weird structures in the ground, right? And a lot of them are geometric shapes, hexagons, pentagons, all sorts of shapes, right? Some are quite square, some are quite rectangular, some are kind of triangular. A lot of them are sort of random looking, but there are some larger ones which are very geometrical, right? And I'm going to show you the large one first here. Now, this is the largest one in the area, and it's pentagonal. But what's strange about this is it's got 5 sides, but those sides are actually hollow. Each side is hollow itself, like a walled castle would be, where you have hollow walls. The outer walls are often very, very thick, and they were hollow, and you can walk up inside them, right? Uh, Very large, right? Now, this thing, what I've done is I've got a bunch of clips. Now, it might be easier if I show you some of these as clips, because basically I've done some measurements with these. There's that large pentagonal structure with the hollow walls, right? And there's the measurement, 830 meters across. So this is really big. It's getting over a kilometer across, right? About half a mile across. So these are huge. And we've got these hollow structures, right? Let's go back to that one and zoom in a bit. Right. Look at this. We've got hollow parts here. And there seems to have been some kind of structures inside it here. You can see like a long wall there with a dividing wall there. It's all buried. A lot of this stuff is heavily buried. But this probably, or more than likely, was an actual dome. And what we're seeing are the lower parts of the dome, and the upper part is all collapsed and washed away or buried here, right? Now, I've got a bunch of these. Now, some of these are crazy. Now, this one here has internal rectangles. You can see them. You can see one there. You can see a rectangle here and a rectangle here, right? Now, it's difficult with this one because it's on the edge of the image, and when you rotate it, you lose the edge of the image, right? But this one is also pretty big, 370 meters across. Now, you can actually see the outer parts of the dome here and where it's collapsed, right? And if you look carefully, let's go back. Let's go back to the other one. If you look carefully, you can actually see that there's a structure inside it here, and there's a wall here, and there's another structure here. There's little structures inside. You can see rectangles here, but they're not that obvious unless you rotate the image, right? Now, the problem is the image is not lined up. In other words, this is how it comes. It comes like this, right? But when you rotate the image, you can actually line these things up and get a better view of them. by just doing this and looking at them this way round, okay? And that one there, that large one with the internal rectangles, is right on the edge of the image here. But if you rotate it and line it up, you can actually see them better. And you might even see them better if you turn it round this way and see the rectangles that way round, because some of us view things differently, and we see things slightly differently when we're viewing things from above, especially. And you can get optical tricks as well. So it's good to rotate things, because that sort of can show you the shapes more clearly if you do that. But you can see that there's a square there. There's a big square, and there's another rectangle here, and you can see whichever way you turn it round, right? But in certain angles, you'll see them more obviously, like this. You can actually see the outer part of the dome here, and this is internal structures. This would have all been domed right over, probably, right? Now, if that's true for this one, it's probably true for the hundreds and hundreds of others in this image, which are smaller, but some of these are in long, straight rows, like a city. So I'm calling this a domed city, or domed city ruins, okay? Because what we have are thousands of these smaller domes, and many of them are in long rows, like we have here. Long rows. This row here is about a kilometre long, this one here, okay? I've got clips of these. It's actually very difficult to get all this across, because basically there's so many of them, but you can see long rows of them here and here, long rows of these cell-like domes that are split open and destroyed. A lot of them are fairly randomly shaped, but some of them are kind of rectangular. Some have internal structures, some of the larger ones, and many of them are geometric shapes, like I said, pentagonal or hexagonal, okay? They're not just craters, because for that to happen, it would be impossible, because basically these were all domes, like in a row, and then they were all hit individually to make the crater. That doesn't make any sense. So they're not cratered cones, as NASA calls them. That's just kind of a general name they use for these type of things, which I don't think they understand. But I actually think these were actually dome dwellings, many of them, and this is why we have them in rows like this. This was a city, and they're all they've been blasted. The tops have all collapsed down in, or been blasted off. So they appear as like ring structures or chain-like structures, like we have here, where we have long rows of them. But I think these are actual dwellings that have been destroyed. Now let's just measure a random one in the middle here. Just measure that. 50 meters. Okay, so the average size of the smaller ones is around 50, but there are many bigger ones and smaller ones as well. But that's the sort of average size. That's about 150 feet or so. Quite large. And then at the top here we have this structure, right, which is what I'm calling a compound. Now, I've shown lots of these types of things before, where you have a walled area with smaller structures inside, like a sort of Mott and Bailey castle, like you would get in the west of England, from thousands of years ago, almost. It has outer walls and inner structures which look like rings, okay? There's one there, there's one there, there's another one here with inner structures. So we've got a ring here with another one inside, structure inside, and we have what seems to be some kind of compound. There's another one here, and another one here with an internal structure here. But this is all ruined and buried, and much of this stuff is not visible because it's buried. And I'm sure if you dug into this stuff, there would be loads and loads of smaller structures. You can see bits of structures here sticking through the sand here. There's a whole bunch of them, smaller ones here, okay? Now, those are quite small, but they're still big enough to be houses, a lot of these little rings. They're about 20 meters across, these little rings here. But this is basically like a wall structure. And we have smaller structures in between, okay, with rings and smaller structures inside them, like this one. Interesting, right? But what really fascinated me was the fact that so many of these are in rows, like long straight rows. We've got long straight rows going this way, then we've got them going that way. And if you rotate the image back to 0 and then go to about number 6 there and rotate it, and you can get rid of that by doing that. You can see a lot of these in rows. Look at them. They look like chains lying on the ground, but they're massive. And the cells in some of these are quite large. Some of these are above average size. Some of these are 100 meters across. But the average ones here, and this one here is a kilometer long. The average one here is around 50 or 60 meters each one. Okay? And they look like long chains. Now, what natural process would cause that, do you think? I don't think there is one. I'm not saying all of these are unnatural and have been built. I think a lot of them were and were possibly modified. But when you have long rows of these, there's rows and rows of them. Look at these here. And if you rotate again and just straighten that out a bit, you can actually see them better if you straighten it like that and turn it up the other way, or put them this way upwards like that so you can see them better. It's hard to get across because there's so many of them, and this area is huge. This goes on for miles and miles, right? It goes on for many miles. So we have the larger ones here on the right. We've got the walled compound, which is huge, and a huge pentagonal collapsed dome, I think, here, with hollow walls. Let's go right in close with this. Look at these. These are hollow. There's a rectangular one there. And there's little structures inside some of these, see that? They've collapsed down. There's a rectangular one. There's a squarish one there. You see loads of rectangles in there, rectilinear symmetry going on here. And there's a square one in the middle of that one there. So this was like the main, if this was a city, which I think it may have been, this would have been the main dominant structure, the primary building, okay? The government building. And the rest of these were just dwellings. And this compound was probably owned by the governor, or the mayor, or the king, or whoever, or the queen, right? The dominant compound here was probably owned by the leader. And then we have the possible government building here, and then we have hundreds of smaller dome-like structures, which were dome houses, many of which were in streets and in rows like we have over here, which are clearly in some kind of organised street pattern. But a lot of it's buried, and we're only seeing the sort of the larger stuff, really, but there's loads and loads of these. And when you start digging into them, you're going to see loads with square and rectangular parts inside them as well, right? So we have chain-like structures on the ground in rows, but they're actually rows of domes which were kind of linked together, like this one here and this one here. It's really hard for me to get this across. There'll be a link in the description below, and you can check this out yourself, because really the only way to view this is to actually look at it yourself and come on here and look at this Gigapan here, Dome City Ruins, ESP 075860265. This is the red one. Now this has been colorized. This is how it comes. The actual image is in monochrome, which is red. It looks kind of black and white, but it's not. It's monochrome. There's the raw image on the left, right? So you can see all this stuff quite clearly in the raw image. And in this colorized one here, it just looks better because it's brighter and more contrast, and it's been colorized to look like the ground does, which is this kind of creamy, kind of gold, sandy color. Okay, so we have chain-like structures in the ground. You can see them here, right? Look at them. It's really incredible. Long, long chains, miles long, some of these chains, and they seem to be collapsed dome dwellings of an ancient city which is now ruined and largely buried in this area, okay? And it's similar to some of the other ones I've shown. So I was really pleased when I found this, because it's been a while since I've found anything like this. I've been looking every single day, trawling through hundreds of images every day, sometimes thousands. Satellite images and rover images every single day. I've uploaded loads of new stuff to the Gigapan site of mine, sat images, as well as loads of Gigapans of the recent rover images. This is a recent one from the Perseverance rover. Nothing much in here. It looks nice, but there's nothing much in here apart from rocks, unfortunately. And this has been the case for months on end now with both rovers. They haven't really found anything, or at least we haven't really found anything in their images for months. And they're between destinations, and I'm pretty sure soon the rover will come across something interesting or capture something on the ground which will be more evidence, like I've shown before. So do check this out. Like I said, check these things out for yourself. Zoom in yourself. If you have Hover Zoom magnifier, use it, and check out these hollow domes and walls with structures inside them, right? They're all over the place. There's crazy stuff going on here, and massive long rows of these things. Use the magnifier. There's different types you can get for different browsers. There's loads of them you can try out. They're all pretty much the same. There we are. Dome City Ruins. Check the links below. Click on this. See it for yourself. I haven't made this up. The raw image is right there with it. If you want to get this image here, this page, you just click up here on the right, which is here by the Arizona link, and that will take you to that page. Okay, let's just check that works. There we are. Okay, there it is. So you can download. I recommend the black and white ones, to be honest. They're better. But some of these are quite large. You may want some of these smaller ones up here, okay, to check out. But the best one to download is the black and white largest one, because that's the most detailed and is wider, and you see the wider context. A lot of these are quite narrow images, and you don't really get an idea of the overall structure of the city and layout of what's going on, right? And to see the layout, you need the biggest, wider image, and you can see these long, long rows of multiple collapsed dome structures in the ground. And they just go on and on. There's so many, I can't even begin really to explain them all. It's absolutely incredible what we're looking at here. But a lot of this was probably natural, and they've actually utilised these structures and built into them. We have a city that goes on for miles with thousands of these collapsed domes in rows. I mean, what else could this be? Right? What else could it be? Answers on the postcard, as usual. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. Like I said, click on the link and check it out yourself. Use the magnifier. There's so much to see here. I'm only touching on it. I've got some clips I'm going to show you now as well. Check this stuff out. Follow the links below, okay? Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.